Thanks, Leah. Great to be back again today. Welcome and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, again. This is welcome to the third in the series of our Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retail webinar titled Beyond COVID-19. This is actually our fourth webinar that we've hosted, the third titled Beyond COVID-19. We've enjoyed about 350 active participants throughout the past webinars. And I really wanted to thank those people for making it possible for us to carry on like this. It's a great joy for us to see so many people. Today, we have about 845 people who have registered. And therefore, usually it's about half the number of people who register come and go throughout the webinar. So we appreciate your time that you spent with us as well today. Our focus is on the responsibilities of what retailers and shopping center owners must do when getting ready to reopen for business in the coming days, weeks, and months. With the support of our members, we've assembled a series of checklists which will make your lives much easier when you go through the startup procedures for your shopping centers or your retail outlets. We've put them on a fairly simple place to find on the MECSC.org website. You'll find them fairly soon after you open up. They'll be right in front of you. I know Ian on our team has been working on getting it so that they're all registered and they're all there. I wanted to thank all of the people who have sent checklist information or things that could help different retailers, different shopping center owners prepare for reopening. We've received things from India, from Norway, from this region, the GCC, and all over, many places that I never expected to see support. So I think that we've been very lucky with and very successful with the number of people who have followed us along. We've been and have discussed the responsibilities of shopping center owners and retailers regarding the liability, the obligation, the burden, the authority, the duty, and trust we have as our collective responsibility, particularly around the topics of health and safety, which I think Phil and both Mohammed and Phil have talked about. The Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers provides all of our webinars free of charge. If you want to receive a certificate of completion for our awareness program for these 3 webinars, then a fee of 100 dirhams will be applied. Also, if you want later a digital copy of all 3 of these webinars, there will also be a fee of, as Leah was saying, $27 or 100 dirhams as a charge. In the past week, we've begun to receive generous financial support from our members who have joined our webinars, and we really appreciate this. This is our 4th webinar today, but I wanted to personally thank those members for their financial support. It's our lifeblood for keeping the organization afloat and enabling our work on webinars, our voice-on-demand podcasts, WhatsApp retail newsletters, the Retail People magazine, the directory, and all of our social media channels. I wanted to thank you for that. I also wanted to thank our team at the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers for their extra work and their time to enable the hosting of these webinars. I have to tell you, give them a thumbs up, please. Show it on your screen for all of our team at the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers. They can see it. You might not be able to see it, but they really have done an outstanding job. First of all, to learn the technology, to bring about these webinars and the back of house, the programs that need to go on. So they've worked tirelessly to bring this all forward. So please thank them when you talk to them because they've done an outstanding job. The Dubai Association Center, in conjunction with the Dubai government, has also been very supportive of our webinars, and we appreciate their support and all of their resources in promoting digitally our webinar programs. So thanks to that. And thank you again, as you are out there. Now we have around 240 participants listening to us. Thank you for joining us today. In the future, we'll continue to host 2 webinars per week. That's our plan. Our intention is to have CEO roundtables with 3 shopping center owners and 3 retail groups to discuss their perspectives on the current state of the industry. We also want to keep you informed as events in the industry change. Retail is an industry which is always in a state of change, and now no more so than now. The team at the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers will keep you informed of these rapid changes. So keep your eyes tuned in to what we're saying. Our presenters today will provide a brief summary of the past webinars, and then we will address your questions. Our team is prepared to keep the webinar open today until 12:30, an extra half hour, adding time to making sure that we have all of the questions that are asked are answered in a way that you're happy with. Let me again introduce our two people who are joining us today. And from Saudi Arabia, Mohammed Alawi, thank you again for joining us for the third of this Beyond COVID webinar. Mohammed is the chairman of the board of Sahat Property Management. He's also been in the shopping center business for many, many, many years, which has been amazing. We've always enjoyed his ability to join, contribute, and be around with what we're trying to do. Mohammed's been a member of the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers for decades. He's been a president of the board of directors and other roles in the organization. Mohammed is the leader in the Saudi retail industry. He's very close with the Jeddah Chamber, and he's the CEO of running his own business as well, called REDS, for Real Estate Development Specialists. Please join me in welcoming back Mohammed Alawi. Thank you for being here again. And the next person that's been with us for a long time as well, Phil MacArthur. Phil runs his own business. He's been a retail development specialist for years and years. He's been a member of the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers since we began 26 years ago. He has experience in developing, running, operating, leasing, managing, designing shopping centers in the region, including such shopping centers as Deira City Center, Dubai Festival City, Mall of Qatar, and countless other shopping centers around the world. Phil has touched the lives and has supported so many, many retail professionals globally. And I'm one of those as well. Please welcome back Phil MacArthur as well. Thanks, Phil, for being with us again today. So today, Phil, maybe you want to start off again, if you don't mind, and just going over a quick review, and then we'll drop it into Mohammed's ballpark, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, David, and thank you everyone who's online now. Fortunately, this morning we had a chance to look at the level of people who have registered and the companies they're from and the different roles they play in the industry, and it's very heartwarming to see such support. I'm not going to go through a list of what we covered in the last two sessions because a lot of that, as David said, is online at the MECSC website in these great checklists and protocols that our industry colleagues are helping share with us so we can not have to start from scratch. We get the information. Just again, hats off to Safe Shopping Centers in Sweden and Beyond Square Feet Shopping Centers in India. So please take time to read these, and they're easy to find on the MECSC website. Now, we all know that the COVID-19 epidemic is a very serious topic, and talking about reopening shopping centers at the time when viruses in many countries are still expanding, or the cases of viruses are still expanding, these are really unprecedented times. And the decision to reopen our shopping centers and retail stores, obviously we can see from around the world, is being coordinated through national and local health authorities. In different countries will have different lockdown policies. We're already seeing in countries like the United States where they're planning to reopen, even though the number of virus cases continues to grow. We don't know here in the MENA region or in India or in Asia when the home period will end, because it'll vary from city to city. And the hard facts on COVID-19 is it's just beginning to be understood. There is no vaccine. Vaccines are being developed. To eradicate the virus will require a vaccine. So we have to be prepared for this future that will have a lot of uncertainty, and we will have to monitor carefully the new normal. Because most countries and economies have been shocked and are very anxious, and they're talking about the balance between restarting their economies and the health of their citizens. So we, of course, with MECS+R and our own companies, we urge caution and preparation and training for your staff, because when the malls open, our responsibilities have never been greater. Now I'd like to flip on to some questions that were given to me. I've got 4 questions. The first one I'm going to ask my good friend and CEO Ishwar Chugani to answer. And the question was, when the malls open, hopefully in say 4 to 6 weeks, will fashion retailers do aggressive markdowns, or will they try to keep margin? And I've asked Ishwar to answer this one, and he may have a few more comments before we come back to my questions. Ishwar?
Thank you, Phil. A lot will depend on the current inventory holdings. I think the biggest challenge today is most retailers would already have 3 different seasons of merchandise: winter, spring, summer. So there's going to be a lot of desperation. It depends on your situation, if you're an agent, a franchisee, or a principal. Depending on each segment, there are ways to either move merchandise to different markets, look at other opportunities. But yes, there will be aggressive discounting, but we have to be very, very careful how much is the discounts, because then customers will keep waiting, and it's going to be like a drug that they keep expecting more and more. This is where a lot of creativity should come in. Retailers should start planning now, looking at their merchandise. Those who can afford it, it might be best to pack and keep it for re-release later and clear what you need now. It's going to cost, but you may have to work with your suppliers and principals, maybe by extending payments, delaying payments. It has to work both ways. So these are just some thoughts, but we have to be ready. Now, just one thing I want to share, 3 very important things before the stores open. Number 1 is protocols, safety, preparation, and is the city or country ready? Number 2, people. Many companies would have let their people go. For those who manage to keep, that would be okay, but for many, you may not be able to have enough people. And 3rd, product, your inventory. Do you have the inventory that's ready to go? Thank you.
Oh, that's great, Ishwar. And I'm sure during the discussion today, we'll be coming back to you because you're so well connected and so well experienced and have such a good global overview of retail trends. The next question I received was, what is the best approach to handle vacant shops in the mall at these times that may come up, and where the concepts that you were talking to before the COVID maybe put their expansion plans on hold? So it's really about how to deal with the new wave of vacancy. And I thought about this carefully, and I think, it really boils down to, do we fill the space? Do we convert the space? Do we even demolish some space? We may come to that. Or do we hide the space? And to fill the space with traditional operators may seem difficult. However, there are always operators with stock, with maybe an interest to take an additional location, but obviously the rental arrangements and the fit-out costs would have to be something that each landlord has to look at carefully. So I'm not saying that that's a big opportunity, but I'm saying that it's not out of the question. Now, there's a whole group of online retailers out there in each market that may be also able to take physical space and come into the centers. And then we could also think about what are some non-traditional operators that could come in on short-term tenancy arrangements. And you may start to think about, of course, pop-up shops, but more local brands that aren't really in community malls or neighborhood malls or shopping centers. You can think about the balance in your shopping center. If we used to have 50% of our mall was fashion, maybe we can get by with 30 or 40% in the next duration. And that percentage would shift to areas like household goods. Or you could even think about bringing in non-traditional mall tenants like automobiles or boats or art or antiques. In the pre-COVID period, the new gourmet markets were the rage all over the world. And I think when the malls stabilize and people come back, food will be one of the categories that rebounds quickly because people love shopping for food. Another idea to fill space is to connect with our communities and use that vacant space for, in the immediate period, for health check centers and for testing centers, other medical destinations, libraries, education centers, government services. Now, to think about a large mall and think about that we may not have the same supply of retailers, the development team, the owner, the financiers may say, we may not need a 3 million square foot mall for the next 3 or 4 years. And there may be opportunities to take part of the mall or part of the mall property and convert it into residential towers or medical centers or education facilities. But all these categories are also impacted by lockdowns and COVID. So we need to be creative. And if we only have a few vacancies in our mall, we're back to the same obligation we had before, was to make them beautiful and decorate them and make them mean something to the customer, not just for lease sign, but give people some inspiration or artwork or graphics or even live plant balls. And finally, malls with high vacancy, I know it seems to be extraordinarily frustrating, but if you think it through, you may have an opportunity to remodel your center or remix your center. So in the past, we used to talk to mall owners and say, don't build 50,000 or 100,000 meters, build it smaller and expand. Now we may be looking in the next couple of years at malls that may not have full market share, and we may say, let's contract the mall for a short period of time. And the last question I had was, when I mentioned that outdoor formats may become more popular, the person sending the question in said, given the prohibited weather conditions in the Middle East, do you think such formats are feasible? And I think this through all the time, and this question has been bounced around in the industry for decades. But we do know that around the world, people shop outdoors in the hottest climates and in the coldest climates. When I'm in Canada at Christmas time, I love going to those warm shopping centers with the heat going. And we also love to go and chill out in the malls in the MENA region in the summer because the summers are so oppressive. But really, those people will come back, but there's a percentage of people that are really going to question fresh air environments and may not really trust our enclosed malls until they feel they're very safe. So there's an opportunity here, like we talked about, to make sure that your sanitation and your air quality is at the highest level. And this would require, testing and technical services. Architects are already starting to produce documents on how new construction materials and building design can improve air quality. And then there was a question on how will all this affect tenant mix, mall design, and zoning. And I'll wrap up with my 10 top observations. Number one, the demand for mall space will be reduced in 2020 and maybe into 2021. Operating malls will have challenges with vacancies leading to partial redevelopments or even some demalling, taking the mall apart. The surge in e-commerce has been remarkable, and we will never go back to the old balance. This alone will make mall demand lower and will impact our mix. But there's an opportunity here because shopping centers are already offering their shops online and giving amenities like curbside pickup. And that means malls will get into the digital era and will serve two communication channels, one digitally and one physically. And malls will be in the delivery business. And to pamper our customers when they come back, we're going to have to think about a lot of amenities to offer to our loyal customers. I'm afraid to say that department stores will continue to decline because what's really the difference between a department store and an online platform? F&B will surge again, and we'll see a lot of new entertainment come into shopping centers post-epidemic. The mix will change in our malls, like I said earlier, primarily due to the e-commerce imbalance. Malls will be more open air, as I said, and mixed-use demand will go down because office and hotel demand seems to have been weakened significantly by the virus. So those are my formal answers and my formal comments. I think now we'll turn it over to Mohammed and then later for open questions. So thank you so much for your kind attention. Everybody stay safe and keep positive.
Thank you, Phil, and good morning, everybody. as we've been talking for the last 2 sessions, and this is the 3rd session together on answering your questions. The brief we've been giving and passing to you guys is our government and our in the region putting all the effort to ensure the safeness and the health for our people. And I think it's a matter we need to approach it very seriously. And I think everybody taking the subject is very seriously. The last 3-4 weeks during this crisis, I think the industry had suffered, and yes, but we always put the safety of the people in front of the economics and other issues. Saudis are no different from that. We do have government which is putting a lot of regulations. Meanwhile, and this is still imposed, and I think controlling the disease and putting like a structure where the maximum could go and where affected, and putting in the new regulation to operate our different sector in the economy, it will be going the same direction. What happening in the last 3-4 weeks, I personally involved in a lot of webinars with many agencies like Jeddah Chamber, Jeddah University, Munshaat, and others, where we try to activate and putting plan for what is the next after the corona epidemic. So we received a lot of feedback, the retailers and also the shopping mall developer. Cooperation is going ahead together. Many of the development and shopping mall developer and operator putting a lot of business plans and crisis management teams, and putting a lot of policy and procedure to be getting ready whenever the government is instructing them to start. Some of them have been shared with MCACs in their website, and more to come to be shared. We're hearing also from retailers trying to prepare themselves for the inventory, for preparing their staff and employees for a checklist, and going through the checklist had been sent by the shopping mall owners to be ready for that. There is some frustration here and there, but this is normal because the logistic lines and the communication lines sometimes is not that great, but we're doing all together as much as we could do. I personally, I believe that if the whole crisis or the full shutdown, it takes times. So we never received the full shutdown. We have partial shutdown in the beginning, and I think soon or later we're going to receive partial operations if we done our homework as the shopping mall and also retailer from both sides getting ready. I do have some questions have been sent to me. One of them. Is there a push from the retailer to open for Ramadan, despite infection curves which are yet going? Definitely, everybody wants to go to business, not only retailer, even the shopping mall, even everybody. Every sector in the economy wants to go back to normal, but we have no other option they have no other option than to adhere to our health authorities and getting from there the green light whenever they think it's ready. I personally believe the partial opening, it will be vary from city to city. It will be vary from industry to industry. It will be vary from activity to activity. We'll see soon with entering of Ramadan in the next week. I think that partial activities will be allowed slowly to be starting with the tough regulations to monitor the result of that. And this is, I think, the test we all want to pass. In the first time the government allowed us to start our operations by preparing ourselves very careful, so we win the confidence of our client, confidence of our customer, and confidence of the authority. Because the authorities, if they didn't speak the confidence of our operation, they will never give us the operation. And I would like to use a good example. Airport had shut down, but airport now starting slowly, sending some flight out of the country and receiving some flight from the country, bringing some Saudis from outside the country. And those airlines and airport authority had done a lot of checklists and measurement and training to their staff. And I think that was great initiative. And we could do starting. the government is still feeling the confidence that that system is there, and they will continue monitor, and they will adding more flight. This is happening now, and I'm sure it's happening in other countries. That's why I'm urging all the retailer and shopping mall developer to do sort of training online to their staff to be ready whenever the government is allowing them to start. One of the question, could you share with us the communication between the shopping mall operator and the retailer and their customer? I think it's all public, nothing is hidden, and whatever we're going to receive, we're going to pass it to David and his team to publish it. But if you follow up all the major shopping mall developers in Saudi and also in the region, you will see a great initiative happening. First of all, to calm their customers. Second, to send a loyalty greetings to their customers, to assure them that they're doing all their best to do that. They're putting a lot of plan for their returns with some activities, and as Phil, preparing their malls for decorations and activities. More on that, some of those shopping mall leading in the region, also they will starting their own e-commerce platform also to support their retailer. You could see that they work in hand to hand. And from the last 2-3 webinar here, I held it in Saudi Arabia, I felt the spirit of cooperation between retailer and the landlord, which I felt it to the high maximum of cooperation, which I didn't felt it maybe 10 years ago. And it seemed to be, this is one of the positive outcome of the crisis. Is in crisis we working more hand together, and we hope that this will continue in the future. Why I think the partial mall will be opening in Saudi Arabia? Definitely for many reasons. It's testing the systems, testing the capability of the mall operator, testing the capability of the retailer themselves, make sure all the small things had been covered before we have this huge traffic. Mall always known for drawing a lot of activities and bringing a lot of people. Ramadan season, it's a very high shopping season, definitely will create more traffic. So that's why I'm sure that if the opening will be partial, conditioned, and slowly until we go back to normal. And this maybe will never go to the normal within 2 or 3 months after that partial opening. But that's great. That's sort of testing our system and also training ourselves and our customer and our chain of supply and a utility service provider to be ready also to cope. I think one of the outcome also of this crisis is we going to think seriously of putting risk plan and risk management and disaster plan and this disaster management in our in our property management, because we never experienced something that big magnitude. There is some question about Bahrain. I'm really not knowing the detail, but I know Bahrain had allowed the partial opening to certain activity, and this is what I think is going to be followed in the region. I'm not sure about the timing or what is the activities, but what I'm hearing in the media and what I'm hearing in other countries like China and other countries, they expecting things are to move slowly good. And I think the activities itself, it will be proof. I was surprised to hear also cinema will be open in certain countries in North America in the next few days, which I'm sure they have their own measurement to do that. But definitely, these things have to be cautions, and we don't need to push out of the limits until we know the result of every action we do in our industry. I'm leaving myself now open with David and Phil for any questions, and I would like to thank again MECS+R and David and his team for this opportunity, and I hope that we could be added any value to you guys whenever you could approach us. Most of you know our mobile and email. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mohammed. And from my perspective as well, there have been a number of questions that have come my way. Let me go through and I'll answer them fairly quickly. Is rent rebate, rent deferral, the only and the best solution to support the retailers? And I'd say, well, first of all, I think you have to understand what the retailer needs. So it begins with open communication. And I've always chatted with you about how important that is. Open communication, transparency in the communication with what you're trying to do with the retailers, I think is the first and the most important thing. I'd also say that every retailer will need to be dealt with in their own way and in the best way that they need. The next part of this question is, how would you deal with the retailer asking for further rent relief beyond 3 months in order to reopen the shop? Well, I would say it goes back again to how are you communicating with that retailer? How important is that retailer to you in the mix? And what can you do to make sure that they're going to continue to operate? It goes back to the communication, and it also goes back to the shopping center itself. You should be considering what kind of marketing programs you're going to do that will enable that retailer to get back to their trading levels that they need to right away. It goes on here for, would it be fair to change tenants only service charges while the closures continue to contribute towards keeping the malls secure, sanitized, cleaned, and technically active? I think that would depend on all shopping centers that have their own way of looking at it. My perspective is that the shop, we're in uncharted water. We're in places where people haven't been in terms of having to make these kinds of decisions. My sense of it is that when we're talking about rent deferral or rent rebate or whatever it is you're talking about, that it would not include service charge, but then we could debate that. The next question I have is, how do you see leasing plans and merchandising plans changing post or beyond COVID-19? And I think Phil already chatted quite a lot about this with respect to, he was saying repurposing or doing what you need to do if you have too large of a shopping area, perhaps reducing it, doing whatever it is you can do. I'd also suggest that when I'm looking at this, there are many, many ways that you can inspire new retailers to come into the market through such things as pop-up retail or temporary retail that's going to make a difference. Now, I'm not referring to things where you're having specialty leasing out in front. That could be part of the solution, but I'm also talking to pop-out retail on the inline shops that could be there. The next question was, do you think at this hour where governments and who have put restrictions, shopping malls have been closed for more than a month in many countries, and it seems retail and the startup food deliveries as well as the distribution hubs have all come to life? I would suggest that it's accelerated everything, and I've read many studies that people have determined that this beyond COVID, it's an industry that has accelerated. So the food delivery that was coming, the distribution hubs that were being developed, I think that they are now accelerating, and we'll see more of that as we go along. I think Phil had already mentioned this, that it's going to be important for shopping center owners to really embrace anything to do digital, because you're going to have to start interacting with your retailers and your customers on a much more direct basis. So those were the main questions. And there was one last one here. It says, what must we do in collections and receivables? And I think that goes back again to talk about your retailers, finding out how they are. And I understand that if you listen to what John Haddon had said with Alshaya and every other retailer who's here, and I can call Ishwar in to talk about this as well. If you have a 90% or 95% drop in your revenue and your expenses remain almost the same, it becomes very difficult to carry on as a business. And I think that what do you do in collections and receivables? I think you start by having an open communication, transparent communication with all of the stakeholders, including everyone who's involved in the shopping experience, and talking to them outward. There is a question here, Ishwar, maybe call back to you. And it said, how would you deal with a retailer asking for further rent beyond the 3 months? Ishwar, do you have any thoughts on this one?
I think what's fair is most of the malls in our lease contracts, we have a percentage mention And during the good times, we actually paid more rent than the fixed rental. It would be in everyone's interest because the business will not be the same, at least for the next 12 to 18 months. Let's be realistic on the situation. Everything is going to change. You know, the 1 month, 2 months we have at home will now make us think that we can live more with less. Even shopping habits, everything. So that the malls also get some revenue, I think moving to a revenue share or percentage till such time business is at least 70 to 80% of normal levels would be the best way forward. A fixed rent will kill us. Our priority right now is our staff. You know, we thank the malls for agreeing to defer rentals and our checks. We thank the malls who have been kind enough to give us 1 to 3 months. But it's not going to be enough, and many people will not survive this because their two largest costs are rent and staff. And for us, our priority is whatever cash we have is first, the humanity side is to pay the people. And then the next step we will deal with. Thank you.
Thanks, Ishwar. I appreciate that. And now Angelo on our team is fielding questions from, we have around 200, 300 people who are here, and there's some people who have raised their hands. So Angelo, I throw it back to you. We're opening for questions. Can you please have some questions come forward? I want to suggest to everybody who has a question, I would like you to be very direct in your questions. We have about 45 minutes or a little bit more maybe to answer these questions. So we need to have direct questions so that our experts can get back and answer these questions. So Angelo, to you now, please.
Thank you, David. Okay, so our first question is coming from Santush Pade.
Hello.
Hi, Santush. How are you doing?
Hi everyone. I'm good. I hope everyone is safe and good too. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for this webinar. This is quite informative one. I'll come directly to the questions. While for the few weeks we have been all talking about this COVID-19 and how to get out of it, I think a lot of malls would have by now learned what is the new normal in terms of operations. What is bothering most of us, and I wanted to probably put this to the forum for your views, is this whole challenge that we are going to face now of laying off people, in the sense a lot of people are thinking, how do we manage with the limited receivables that we have? And a lot of people in terms of retail and development have started thinking that we need to lay off few people so that we can manage our cost. I wanted to ask three basic, very direct questions related to it. One, is it something which is unavoidable? Is it something that we have to do? Number one. Number two, is there a better way? Because when we see that the new normal going to be the next level of sanitization, the next level of operations, I personally feel that we probably would need those people to stay with us, because you need more people to get into operations. You need more people to get into this kind of new normal. And when we say layoff, it doesn't mean that everybody is incompetent. There might be 2 or 3 people at the same level. All of them are competent, but you probably have to choose one above the other. And you probably have to take those calls. So my personal feeling is probably you might need more people after the mall gets resumption, full resumption. So how do we manage that? So the first question was, is it unavoidable? Second thing, if you want to hold them back, what are the kind of measures that we can take so that we can use them when the need comes? That's my second question. And third, as a middle of councils, these councils, these associations, can we create some kind of a platform, a common platform, where we can create this pool of people who are available for jobs? Okay, and we might have a few places, few malls, few areas where we need people, but we don't have a platform where we can have the common pool of people there. So can we create some kind of a platform, a pool, where all these people who are in need of job can go and register themselves, and the association like Middle of Council Center, Middle East of Shopping Centers, or International Council of Shopping Centers, or some associations in India can come together and form this pool or form this portal where everybody can go and register, and probably this can be a great help to people who are looking for a job during this tough time.
Santosh, thank you for those comments. Let me start by answering the second question first. And that is that the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailers has a very strong job portal attached to our website. We have for many years. We are probably one of the top job portals where people are looking for trained individuals for hiring in the industry. So yes, we've already done that. Yes, you can find it. MECSC.org. Go to the job board and you will find that we're already posted there. For the first part of your question, I would like to go back to Ishwar as well. Ishwar, if you are there and you can hear me. One of the things that you said to me earlier today, which I agree, by the way, and this is the way I think as a businessman, and I've always thought this way, it's very difficult to find the right people at the best of times. And if you can keep the best people in your team at all times, no matter what, my opinion is you're going to be accelerating much more quickly than other people. Ishwar, do you want to answer that as well, please?
Yes, I am where I am, and we are where we are today because of our people. And from experience, whenever you bring in new people and they don't understand your company's culture built through many years, you're going to have more frustration. So if we can keep the people and work with them, and you know that the people who have been with you for a long time will understand and they will share your pain, I think that should be everyone's priority. Number one, it's also the human nature, because you always take care of the health and safety of yourself, your family, and your people. Once you manage that, you can always restart because you have your team with you. But if you do it and let them go and you start alone, it's going to be very difficult.
Thank you, Ishwar. Angelo, on to you next, please.
Thank you, David. Okay, so the next question is from Saad Athar.
Hi, good morning from Karachi, everybody.
Hi, Saad. How are you?
Sunny from Karachi.
Hi,
Hi, David. Hi, everybody, especially Phil, Ishwa, and Mohammed. It's very nice to see you guys all. It's great. I think the best thing COVID-19 has done to me is this webinar. At least I get to see all my gurus over here and to listen to them. It's been excellent. Now, what I would really, like to kind of comment over here, because currently I'm working with Malik in Pakistan. And just to add on to Malik's point, which he mentioned earlier, is that we have to kind of develop a code of conduct for the visitors to the mall, and bring that on. So just a suggestion for MECSC, MECS+R, in a way that this is very important, that if we can kind of create protocols or a COC for the visitors as consultants, it's very good for us as well to advise the developers as well as the retailers that how we can manage. And the second thing which I just wanted to add on is that, like, most of the governments are desperate to get the businesses running, but of course the priority right now is the health and the safety of the people around. That is why they're keeping themselves back. Otherwise, everybody wants to start the business. Like in Pakistan, I can give you the example that yesterday the government over here has announced to open up the mosques, which is one of the risky areas, as I may call it, because at the moment the social distancing is very difficult to maintain in the mosque. But they have decided to open it up because, of course, they are desperate to, the movement of the people has to happen in order to raise the economy. Now, similarly, if the mosques can open in Pakistan, and I hear and I know that the UAE government is very proactive and is trying to do all what they can to kind of get the economy running. So what we can really do as MECS+R or Pakistan Council over here is that we can actually kind of bring in documents or kind of a monitoring tool for the governments as well as for the retailers and the developers, so that these areas can open. And this COVID-19 webinar, which the MECS did, David, in your leadership, and of course your excellent professional team who has actually worked behind that, I can't have much word for their admiration right now. With their help, we can kind of create a start point for further webinars where we can develop such code of conduct and present it to the governments who are desperate to listen to us. I can tell you about this of the Pakistan government. I
Thank
can
you,
sense the
Saad.
same for the UAE government as well.
Thank you, Saad. I can tell you this, that if you go into our website today, you would be able to find enough documents there to provide what you're asking for. It's already there. I would suggest a code of conduct. You could download it and you could make whatever you need to do to move forward to the next step. Mohammed, any thoughts on it? Mohammed Alawi?
Yeah, as you said, David, most of the mode of operator, and some of them involving with some authority, and some of them involving with different organizations within the country, like the Jeddah Chamber, Riyadh Chamber, and others. And I know that's happening also across the region. They're trying, you cannot have what I call it one final draft, but everybody trying to do his best to have with one draft could accommodate, first of all, build the trust to the government that we are ready to operate partially or full, and also all stakeholders within our business, like the retailer, like the service provider, the chain of supply, and all the things. Also, they have to adhere to it, and also our customer. But from my experience, let's give you an example of the chain, the hypermarket, supermarket. I've been around and I'm talking to some of the CEOs in the country. We have quite big networking. And I've been receiving this this is their feedback. Number one, people today are more educated about their health than ever. People, they come ready, asking before they come what they want to be ready for entering their supermarket, mask or gloves or whatever things. All of them, they accepting the checkpoint in the gate with this thermal camera and all those temperature meters to make sure once and twice are ready. Some of them, they are not even, if they come and they find the queue in the door outside getting longer, they will change their mind to come in another time or early. So the conduct, it's there. And we keep exchanging different format with different authority, and they're reviewing it and they're sending feedback about it. And the operator also, they're updated. And we're receiving a lot of technology equipment for the nation. I think David and his team uploaded on the MCC website. And I think all what we need is to action, to work. I personally believe that every mall operator should do a webinar like this webinars with his retailer and his chain supply and his utility services provider, and do a very great job of presenting what he has document with him, and ask them to go back and read it and do checklist and prepare another point and discuss it, because authority will not allow any shopping mall to be open until they are very confident they could manage the crowd. We are a crowd area, and shopping mall is attracting people and traffic. And if we cannot manage that traffic and the crowd, we will be in a trouble. So let's do our homework right now and exchange what you have data, and do a lot of training, I repeat, a lot of training for your employee, for your security, for your store employees, for your chain of supply who bring in all the material and goods to your shopping mall, and that make sure that every nitty-gritty in that checklist has been tested and reviewed and taken care of it. So whenever they give us the green light, we are ready to start.
Mohammed, thank you. Back to you, Angelo, please.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Usman Khalid.
Hi, good morning, guys. Thank you very much for taking my question. Just a quick one. I'm Usman. I'm CEO of Centric, a digital transformation company that focuses on mainly shopping malls and retail. And we have been saying for quite some time that not all footfall is equal, because we have a loyalty solution where you get the points and you get the best shoppers out. So now with the malls that are already running this solution are actually just inviting in whenever they are going to open their best shoppers. So now my main question is basically, we have been getting requests from some shopping malls to track the users that have come into a mall, something like the Dubai police permit that we have in terms of going for the grocery shopping. And do you think this becoming a norm across the region?
Sure.
That if the authorities ask and find a COVID-19 patient that has visited a given mall, let's say on a Thursday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., they want a list of all the people that were in the mall at that time. So we are getting these requests. So my question to Muhammad Alawi would be, is that something apart from the thermal cameras that you guys are actually looking at?
Yeah, this is exactly what's happening. A lot of updates from Ministry of Health now being based on a lot of application where people feed their health situation, and also what did they do, measure it from there. You know, every single Saudis or non-Saudi resident in the country have what we call it the national ID, and that national ID, it could be linked to various applications, the Ministry of Health and different authorities doing it, that to make sure that when you are abroad. I saw an application also in Bahrain where wherever you could walk, you could know in a distance around you how many people potential, not necessarily potential, are affected by that, because they are in the past was other. I think all the telephone operator, mobile operator also, they're participating in upgrading a lot of application for the different various government agencies to help in that. Not only about the health, also it's helping also Ministry of Health also sending direct their medicine from hospital to their house rather than they for other medical issues. So I could see this application will improve and adding value. And the syndrome of application, I think, will never finish. Will be forever. We're going to addicted to our mobile now more than we addicted to our wallet. I'll give you an example. No more a delivery service in the country allowed to receive cash in Saudi Arabia, where we are used to be a cash society in the past. So if he come deliver the food for you and you have not ready with your credit card or your telephone application, Apple Pay, whatever, STC Pay, or those applications, he will refuse because he will lose his permission and he will leave you without giving you your thing. So you have to be ready. Now this is show you this application went so far, and as my colleagues Phil was mentioning, this is also going to be affected in the future, our operation, design of our mall, how we're going to embed it in our shopping mall, virtual malling or virtual shopping mall within our design and how we're going to do it. Now, some malls around the world, you could review product online virtually. You could put first request regarding you are not supposed to buy. Maybe you go on the mall and visit, and you collect it if you are happy about it. So it's a technology's great initiative happening everywhere, and I think we're going to see more and more in this regards.
Thank you, Mohammed. Angelo, next question, please.
Thank you. Yes, the next question is from Shazad Anwar. Shazad, are you there?
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you very much for this valuable webinar once again. So my question is that how helpful and important is to create an e-commerce platform for the mall in this time, because, you know, as we see that Mall of Dubai already started its virtual store. So, you know, how we can make it work and how quickly and easy we can actually create a platform for the tenants. Thank you.
Phil, you were talking to me about this one earlier. Would you answer Shazad's question, please?
Yeah, good morning, Shazad. The concept, I think, was out there 4 or 5 years ago. How could we prevent eroding our market share in bricks and mortar by embracing an e-commerce platform? And nobody really took it seriously in the mall business. Just like we don't have great mobile telephone navigation when we go through malls. People talk about it, but it's just in its infancy. And I think what's happened in the lockdown periods and the rise of e-commerce is it's become obvious that if we don't figure out a way to have parallel servicing of our customers, whether it's home delivery, pick up at the curbside, go into the shop, I mean, we're going to need to think about all of these things. Now, David, Mohammed, and I are not technical platform creators, but there are people out there that are doing this. And I think if you can even find an accommodation to help your retailers during the lockdown, where some of them in the United States now, some of the big malls in Westfield malls are having curbside delivery. So do some reading online, have a look at the platforms, and I think the local infrastructure or technical solutions would have to come from your own market.
Thanks, Phil. Angelo.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so the next question is from Pravinder Singh.
Hi, thank you all for this opportunity today here. I have a question to David that whenever we do any safety and security procedure, there are two ends to it. One is that mall will follow the process of security. It will also even provide the tools and it will also give the code of conduct to the customers how to enter a mall. Now, what happens when a customer deliberately doesn't want to follow a safety security procedure? Is there any way by which we can put any legal directive towards the customer's point that if he doesn't follow such a procedure, some actions will be taken or some code of some procedure will be followed for him not following the safety procedure in the mall?
Sure, Pravinder, thanks. Great question. And yes, in fact, if you're not listening and following the directives that are held by the government, and I'm talking the UAE today, particularly Dubai, if you are not willing to follow on the directive, you can, first of all, be fined, second of all, spend time in jail, and third of all, be deported. So I'm not sure what area community you're talking about, but people generally have to listen fairly carefully now to what is acceptable and not acceptable. Non-acceptable behavior, especially related to health issues today, is not acceptable, full stop. So yes, the police can be involved. Yes, your security should have top of your speed dial. Those are the kinds of things you're going to have to do. Phil, anything further?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about as an operator of a mall or a mall manager, I think it's a daunting proposition that we're going to have to segregate or isolate customers that somehow we become aware of that have the virus or potentially have the virus. I'm not sure how that's done, but like David said, different jurisdictions have different restrictions and different tolerance levels. But it seems to me we can't enforce it as a mall operator, but we'll need the authorities to work with us to enforce it. That would be my first thoughts.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
I want to add one thing. I think we all always sometimes we forget some memory. After 11/9, the crisis and airlines and aviations imposed a lot of tough regulation. You come 3 and 4 hours in the airport, you screen everything, you cannot put your laptop with you, you send your laptop. And in the end of the customer lived that experience. They needed to do it and they accepted until the crisis finished and we are back to, and everything went back to normal. And I think customer, very smart, they understand why we're doing this according to the government registration. And I think they will adhere to it if we do it properly, mannerly times and efficiency. Experience show that airlines, aviation had passed that tough measurement, and I think the shopping mall also will pass this tough time measurement.
Thanks, Mohammed. Angelo, next question.
Yeah. Next would be from Marouk Jabin.
Hi, Marouk. Can't hear you. You must be on mute. You are on mute. Your microphone is on mute. Can't hear you.
Maruk, I'm sorry, but we cannot hear you.
Maruk, we are not able to hear you.
Let me unmute.
Okay.
There. Maruk, hello? Still nothing.
Angelo, I think it's best to go to the next question. Maruk, apologies, but we cannot hear you. Your equipment doesn't transmit.
Okay, right now, just give me a second. There's no more questions on queue.
Okay, great. I have another question here.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I just had, there's a lot of questions happening in the chat. And Benoit in Ras Al Khaimah, I don't know if you're still online, but you've posed a few interesting questions for the retailers. So if that could be brought forward, Benoit, we invite you to come forward.
Okay, I have a question from Mazen Omer. Mazen, are you there?
There's Benoit.
Benoit, how are you doing?
Good, thanks, David. How are you?
Great, great to see you.
Thank you. I just had we're all preparing to open the malls, and we've been in several discussions with a number of retailers. And many of the retailers are asking us for various kinds of rent rebates for 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and stuff like that. In principle, I agree that both retailers and the mall owners are in the same boat in the sense that both are struggling and will continue to struggle for some time. Ishwar made a comment that, you know, the contracts already have a percentage rent clause that when business comes back and there is good business, you know, the mall owners make money anyway. But traditionally, these percentage rents, 6%, 7% have been traditionally low because we know that a tenant can survive operating in a mall by paying much higher percentage rents. So I wanted to know, would retailers be willing to look at that percentage rent clause wherein we increase that to, let's say, for certain retails, 12%, 13%, 15% for a certain period of time in lieu of the fixed rent, you know, so that they also share the burden of this difficulty along with mall owners. I mean, there is a debate already on whether we should pay service charge. Many tenants are resisting that. Many tenants also want discount on utilities, especially on the chiller charges, which is directly billed by the malls and things like that. So we have to find a solution to this problem where both are equal. It's a partnership where both parties take responsibility and share that burden. It cannot be that all the burden is on the retailers and vice versa on the landlord. So would tenants or retailers be open to that model where we increase that percentage rent for a certain period of time?
Ishwar, I see that you're still here. If you have any input on this, and I know that your input would be from your personal perspective, but it may help Benoit in his understanding.
Yeah, I think Benoit raised a very valid point. Every retailer would have negotiated the percentage clause. I think sitting down with the malls, we would not be averse to reviewing it and agreeing on what's fair. And because then we would also know once the mall opens, what's the level of business. And we know we don't have a fixed cost. So we don't mind paying once the business comes in. Of course, it has to be something that's workable both ways. I'm sure most small and medium retailers would actually be in a position to discuss and take this further.
Thanks, Ishwar. Mazen, you're there. Your next question.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you. Great lead-up question to my question. The question basically is, as a retailer, coming from the retailer side, many of the malls, understandably so, have been basically holding on making a decision on rent reductions and assistance understandably so, because nobody knows how long this is going to go, et cetera. And some have been generous enough to do the deferments of the payments, which is great. The question, though, is that for many of us, especially on the smaller side of F&B and retail, the longer the decision point takes, the more drastic measures we have to make that might be non-reversible, right? And it's, things from non-renewal of leases, because in certain cases now renewals are coming in this period, or the decision to make it. So you're going, I don't know where I stand. I don't have any reductions. Can't move forward. Let's not renew. Let's cancel. Don't have enough cash to demolish the unit. There's all kinds of issues, as well as long as it drags on, you're going to let go more staff, send them back home. So what can we do together, collaboratively between the retailers and the malls, to accelerate getting some interim decision points to say, okay, it's X number of months or X percentage of rent for now, and we'll revisit it afterwards, to stop us from making non-reversible decisions that when the malls are ready to say this is what we're willing to do, it's like, sorry, we're out, because we couldn't get through.
As in, good point. Phil, do you have any input on that one?
Yeah, that's Mazen, that's a great question. And I don't think it's a simple answer again, because every developer is a private investor. And therefore, some like Tamdeen in Kuwait immediately came online and said, we're giving 3 months relief. Others said, we're studying it. Others saying, so it depends on the sophistication level of the developer and the depth of their management team. I think if I was you as a retailer, I would be crafting some kind of proposal that you would give to every mall owner based on the individual results of that store, saying, okay, before COVID, I did this number and you charged me this much. Now I think my business is going to be 50%. Therefore, I think I can handle this, but maybe force the issue. And, the concepts that Benoit and Ishwar were talking about, where the percentage number could change. And sure it could, because it's all about, forget about basic rent and operating costs and marketing fees. It's all occupancy costs to the retailer. So if the business is 50% of what it used to be when we come back, it makes logical sense that the amount of rent that we possibly can charge would be no more than 50% of what we used to charge. But we just don't know how long this is going to last and how deep the cut in sales and traffic is going to be. So then I think any solution would also have to have a mechanism that would adjust it up or down, considering what the conditions would be 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. That's the way I would get it started.
Okay, thank you. Angelo, any next questions?
We are out of questions for now.
Okay, great. There's another question that I have here that I would like to ask, I think, of Phil, because it makes sense. Outdoor shopping centers in this region, and you chatted briefly about this in your presentation earlier, but outdoor shopping centers, I think, may have a resurgence due to the health and safety issues. Can I get your perspective on this one, please?
Yeah, I did touch on it at the beginning. And I know it's really hard to imagine, because we do love our super regional malls with 3 million square feet and all the amenities. And we do love the idea when we open that door in August and we just enter this beautiful, cool environment. But there's just going to be a percentage of people that don't trust us anymore, and don't trust airports anymore, and don't trust airlines anymore, and hotels. So we're going to have that issue to tackle. And like I said, even the existing malls can up their game in terms of air exchange and fresh air that's coming in instead of recycling air. And again, I'm not in the building technology business, but I know that there is better forms of technology, smart technology, that can be used to improve the air quality. Maybe some malls have to basically open up those skylights and in the decent weather be able to bring in some fresh air. But we know it has a myriad of problems in terms of maintenance and humidity. So it gets down to what will people be going out to do in shopping? Are they going to the pharmacy? Are they going to the dress store? Are they going to the shoe store? Are they going to the movie theater? And sometimes outdoor environments work very well because it's a one-shop or one-stop destination. We're not cross-shopping. So if I look at some of the great projects in Dubai that MECSC has developed, if I want to go to the beach, to the movie theater, it's outdoor mall, and I walk into the movie theater or into the PF Chang. So I just think that we have to think very carefully about mall environments, and this not just malls, it's office buildings, it's co-working space, it's airports, like I said, it's hotel lobbies, it's schools, it's regular office buildings. So there's a whole new discussion going on that we need to be more sensitive about the internal environments we're exposing people to.
Thanks, Phil. Rebecca Arnold is with us from Bahrain. Rebecca, I saw your chat earlier. If you can hear me, if you're there, I have a question for you. You've been open, and you just opened your new mall, Mall of Damunia, and you've said that you've been, it looked like from your chat that it's been going fairly well. You've gone through a few, you have masks, and you have, I think, temperature checking when people come in. Thank you for coming on. Tell us how your experience has gone.
Okay, good morning, Phil, and thank you very much. It's been very nice to listen to the podcast, actually, or the webinar. Yes, we've just opened our new shopping mall, and we've opened the supermarket, and it's actually doing quite well. We're very happy with the footfall. However, in saying that, what we're doing is managing everything. So, for example, we manage the number of customers that walk into the supermarket at any point in time. We have stickers on the floor that manage the social distancing. We make sure that all customers coming into the shopping mall are wearing masks, and we have notification that is up asking them to comply. So we also take the temperature checks. Likewise, then on the supermarket side, we also make sure that they are compliant in terms of all the deliveries, anyone coming into the shopping mall, their staff, they all have to comply. So we have separate entrances for contractors, we have separate entrances for staff, and also for deliveries and customers. So the security and our FM team and our operations team are fully trained, and we've put in some procedures to manage all of this, or we've put in procedures basically to manage this.
Thank you, Rebecca. I think it's interesting because I think you and your new mall of Damunia would have been the first ones to have opened in this region. So it's great to get your feedback on that.
Well, it's actually quite interesting, just to touch on that. We are also the first one globally to test and commission our aquarium. So we're having to do that remotely. So that is very, very challenging at this point in time.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Thank you. And then one other question that was asked while you're here, Rebecca, if you don't mind. Have you had anybody who's declined to be cooperative with you or your security team when they're coming in?
Not at all. We've actually had everyone being compliant because they've been educated in terms of how serious this problem is or this issue is. They also are aware of the implications if they're not compliant. So they've actually been very, very good. I think it's just a matter of making everybody aware. And one thing that they do have here that is very good in Bahrain is this contact tracing. So we have that on our phones. So that
fantastic.
Is also, yeah.
Oh, great news. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate you dropping that. Phil, do you have any questions for Rebecca while we have her?
Yeah, I think hi, Rebecca, and thank you so much for coming on board here. I think everyone wants to know what is the interface you have with your local authorities, and what kind of guidance did they give you in you creating your protocols to open?
The government authorities here are very, very good. They have a lot of information that is out there on the internet, and we are meeting with them quite regularly. So we're having regular meetings. We have open chains of communication with them. We have information that is out there on the telephones in terms of apps, special websites. So there's a lot of information that the public can access. And also the mall managers, we can access it too. So I think it's been very well managed here in honesty.
Well, I have one more question. So when you had a brand new mall opening, did you have to do a major sanitization program like we saw in the Abu Dhabi videos where they were spraying shop fronts? And then how often do you need to repeat that kind of regime?
We have procedures in place. So before we opened, we went in there. So it was a new shopping mall. So obviously we're concerned about hygiene. So not only did we do the deep cleaning, but we did the sanitization, disinfection of everything. So we carry that out on a regular basis to make sure that we are compliant in terms of the hygiene standards of the shopping mall. So we have a program in place with our company whereby they go in on a regular basis, and that is determined on a needs basis as well. Unfortunately, if you have someone that is detected with COVID-19 that is in the shopping mall, we'll carry it out immediately afterwards.
Okay, one last comment. Benoit brought this up and others have brought it up about operating costs. And although we have our retailers who pay the rent and they pay the operating costs, and we're struggling with trying to find out what is the comfortable new percentage that we're going to be looking at in the short term. But I've got to think that the disinfecting programs would increase your operating costs dramatically, and that the number of suppliers would be fairly limited.
Yes, correct. We do use companies that are registered with the government authorities. So we use reputable companies, but this is a cost that we're actually covering at this point in time. So we haven't leveraged anything against the tenant, and the tenant is also being able to trade at the moment rent-free.
Oh, very good. Well, congratulations. And you took a lot of courage and effort to open, and we look forward to on future webinars connecting with you and other mall managers and executives around the globe who can talk about the specific actions they've taken to reopen, because we're moving away from theoretical and now we're getting sort of test cases. Thank you so much.
Great.
You're welcome.
I have one comment for David. I think for this year award, we should put a category for opening a new malls during the COVID-19.
Yes.
And also a new category for opening mall from online, far away from online. That's a great achievement.
Actually, that's very interesting. Yes.
Yeah, that's a great achievement. We should prepare for this category to encourage other developers in this year to open also their malls and work hand to hand with the retailer.
Well, this is the first in my experience too.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's great. And thank you, Mohammed. And I know that our team is going to look back at that and make sure we connect with that for sure.
Thank you.
David?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I have a question from Aisha.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello, Aisha.
Perhaps Mohammed Alawi can listen to this one.
Aisha, please go on.
Hello, Aisha.
Okay. Okay, let's.
Okay.
I noticed that Prem Mohan has his hand up. Does Prem have a question
Yes.
as well?
Let's move on with Prem.
Prem.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Hi, David. Hope
Hi,
everyone
Prem.
is okay.
Good to see you.
Please don't mind my hair. It's a co-head challenge. See, my question is very, very simple. All the retailers, there's a lot of talk about the year to move to away from the fixed rents and move to the turnover rents, percentage rents, all of that. So at the same time, this is an old question which many of the retailers have not been in agreement with, which is the collection of the sales data from the POS and other methods. So in this point of time, when the landlords are also suffering as much as the retailers, when the retailer says 90% of the income is wiped out, so is the developer. The mall management, the developers, 90% or 80% or even 95% of our income has also been halted, and we don't know, we're very uncertain about the income which will come back or not. So at this point, the moving forward, if any retailer is requesting to move to a percentage lease, is it unfair, or is it does the landlord should have the right to insist on the POS data capture and all other kinds of data capture, sales capture methods to ensure that the retailer, the developer is getting the best and the the correct value for his the leases.
Thank you, Prem. Phil?
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
yeah. So I'm still surprised that we're having this discussion. You know, I come from Canada, and we collected sales information in the 80s from every shop. And there was a level of transparency that helped us craft our marketing plans. It helped us craft what would be the right rentals to charge people, because we had the actual sales information. When I came to Dubai at Dira City Center, nobody reported sales. Now, you know, now it's the norm in the market. So every market has a different level of maturity, and it's really a question of maturity. Do the retailers honestly can open their books and say, here's my sales, here's my cost of goods, here's my administration charges, here's the capacity I have to pay operating costs. And so I think it really boils down to, if you're not doing it today, there's just no way you can navigate the future without the sales. So that sales information has to be transparent, it has to be honest, and that'll give the formula on what the capacity is for the retailer to pay going forward.
Okay. Thank you. There's another question again from Mazen Omer. It seems like you have your hand up. Mazen?
Yes, just a comment on that last point, if you would allow me, from a retailer's perspective. I think we've been sharing sales data on a regular basis. I think the question here is whether it's direct connectivity to the POS. And for many of us, we have restrictions from our brands in terms of franchises, as well as there's a general sentiment between many retailers that the difference between Canada and here is many of the mall developers here are also our competitors. So they own competing brands. So if they have access to detail level sales data of SKU level, you know, then that opens up a potential conflict of interest. But in terms of reporting general sales data, and we've all signed clauses that allows the developer to audit our books, et cetera. I don't think there's any issues with that. It's the POS connectivity that's the issue.
Thank you,
does
Mazen.
make sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Angelo, do we have any other questions?
Yes, I have a question from Nabhan. Nabhani?
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having us all here. Thank you, Dave, Phil, Mr. Muhammad as well. My questions is particularly directed to Mr. Muhammad. You were talking about like we're going having like a checklist for more, right? Is that is going to be, since we have like different real estate developer in Saudi Arabia and too many landlords, is going to be unified, you know, as a one checklist, or is going to be different in terms of the points and the measurement and the process as well? If yes, how long it's going to be shared with the tenants in order just to be prepared in advance? This is question number one. My last question, you were talking about maybe soon we'll be having partial opening. So what business categories, like if there is like business categories going to open in phases, that would help me a lot just in order to prepare for the opening. Thank you.
Thank you. Regarding the sharing the protocols, what's happening right now, most of the developers are communicating together through webinar and through different sessions. And I think there is a various draft had been transferred between or shared between all the developers in the country. I'm talking about the major. And also Jeddah Chamber also was very kind, grab 2 or 3 of those documents, share it to all their database. There is about 100,000 registered in their database, their membership and received. And I think availability of the protocol it's everywhere. Now the question is, everybody need to take this protocol and review it to suit his mall. If it is open style, open lifestyle mall, closed mall, it's just centerhood mall, whatever. You have to customize very carefully about his property, and also try to start to discuss it with his retail and share it to his retail. Saying that this is not the final what the government maybe come to it, because every day there is the report and there is sort of research how to handle and deal with this disease. And I think the government also, they will have their own say. But Jeddah Chamber, Makkah Chamber, Riyadh Chamber, I know they receive endoscopy, and also they pass it from their through different level of authority, Minister of Trade and others, to give them assurance that the developer are working on their side also. But the most important is every developer now who receives that document, he should start do communication with his retailer, do seminars or training or webinar, and do checklist asking each retailer to do his homework also. Not only retailer, service provider, chain of supply, security, and all those things. I think we're going to need to do a lot of training online on that subject. Now for the partial, if you ask me for the partial activities, definitely entertainment will be delayed, maybe after Eid, because usually it's a crowded spot, and it will be put on hold. And actually the mood of the holy month and that maybe will help in reducing that. But the mood of Eid also, it's a joy, and people, they want to buy new clothes, new fashions, new shoes, and that I'm sure those will be open with a very caution. Food will be on delivery or on takeaway. I don't think that they will allow in early stage people to sit in the restaurant or in the table, but people come and order and leave. People could take that, and I think they will allow to do that. Supermarket definitely will continue. Cosmetic will continue. Pharmacies will continue. So let's see how the authority will put restriction and as much people adhere to a retailer, an operator, more operator adhere to the authority, and they come and check and do their own analysis, there will be more confidence in the future to give more and more partial, to move that partial to full operation. I would just want to comment about the entertainment. I think entertainment, they need to do a lot of homework also, like cinema operator, like FEC and all the things, because I know their job is based on crowd. And usually when you go to cinema, it's a crowd area. And when you go, I think some of them, they started studying the formula, if they've been, how they could convince the authority to open partially through even the technology in their systems and the ventilations and things. I think this is a challenge. Let's see how they could come with some creative idea how to manage this this crowd. Basically, I think if you could manage the crowd properly and put all the needed measurement and gain the trust of the authorities and no disaster happen, I think slowly this ban will lift it.
Thank you, Mohammed. Back to you, Angelo. We're at 12:30, so we're at the end of our time allotment that we've given, but I think you might have one more question. I'm not sure.
Yes, going down to our last question from Wael.
Wael.
What? Hello, Wael. Are you there?
Maybe he left.
Yes, hello everyone. This is
Hello,
Wael from Jeddah. Just one comment on Mr. Nabhan checklist, and the Arabic version should be in the MECSC website, and we are finalizing the English version with the one that it's been provided already. So this is from our perspective, from our experience. I really encourage other shopping centers and other even retailers to share their own experience, so we can make through MECSC a consolidated checklist that will help us all. I really thank Rebecca for her contribution. We may benefit from her comments more than others because she already done and practice this in practical. So I just want to make a note that we should all share the information that we got and we consolidate it in one report for MECSC. I think this is the way to go. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I also appreciate, because I understand you are the one who translated from English to Arabic for some of those checklists. So I appreciate your support always. And I know you're a member of our board as well. I appreciate that support. So, Okay, at this point, I want to start doing my thank yous and closing down for today. We're running a little bit past time. First of all, I want to thank everybody who has joined us today. It's been another great session. Great to see everybody who's out there, and I really appreciate your contribution, each and every one of you. Also, Mohammed Alawi, thank you for joining us again today for this three-part series for Beyond COVID-19. And Phil MacArthur as well, thank you so much for joining it. I really appreciate you all. I wanted to also thank the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailer team, because they've made us all possible in the back of house. Our job is made easy by what they do in the background. And I know that they have learned very quickly. They're a quick study, this group, and they're very bright. And I know as Ishwar has said about, you don't ever let the best ones go. You always want to keep them at the forefront of your thoughts as a team. And that's the way I feel as well about what we've done and what we've been able to achieve as the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers and Retailer. We are coming out with new 2 per week. So there'll be, I want you to keep your eyes open for what we're going to be doing. We have some other ideas for our webinars that I think are going to be very appropriate and important at this time as people are preparing to open up. We also need to get more perspectives on retailers and shopping center owners. We're going to do that. We're also going to get the latest information about what's going on the digital sales of other companies, not Amazon necessarily or Alibaba, but other companies, and how they've managed to keep the wheels going and turning on their businesses. One in particular from China, who's managed only in March 2019 and March 2020, their sales were only down 4%, including the time that they were shut. So they had some great initiatives, and I would love to share those with you as well. So once again, thank you all for joining us, and I appreciate it. Phil, Mohammed, anything less to say?
Thank you,
No,
David.
Thank you.
Thank you for arranging that, and wish all the people best of good luck.
Okay, thank you, Mohammed, and thanks everyone. And we'll be